you're buying, paying for, and the reciprocation is going to be, we're going to deliver on this date and this place, this product, X. Go to your contracts. Look at the contracts and look to make sure that there's no gray area in there, meaning hey everyone, so we're going to talk about today the importance of your contracts. Contracts on your wedding day. Recently I ran into a little bit of an issue, and there's going to be no names mentioned or anything like that, but a bride called me up in a little bit of a panic because her wedding venue closed the doors. She's 9 months away from her wedding. All of the save the dates have been sent out with the venue's address, where they were going to be getting married. So there's a little bit of a panic going on. So first thing I did was wanted to address her that everything will work out okay. You need to cross, a couple of bridges you're gonna have to go through just to figure out, what's gonna happen next. So my first question without a doubt was, do you get your money back? Do you get the deposit back? I felt like that was the most professional thing to ask because you need to go to your contracts. That's why I did a wedding tip Wednesday on this particular subject, but that's only 2.5 minutes long. I wanted to dedicate a whole video to the importance of wedding day vendors' contracts. Now, if you have a wedding planner, an actual legit wedding planner, not a wedding coordinator that comes along with your venue, I'm talking about an actual event planner. Your planner will take charge of contracts and what's in contracts, look over those contracts. So some people like to negotiate their contracts when it comes to that. So if you have an event planner, then you would have somebody to kind of ask for the bride and groom to go say, hey, how do we handle this? What do we do? That's the job of the event planner. When you don't have an event planner, it is now left up to the bride and groom / in-laws to figure out what happens next. So the door closed. They said, sorry, we're not going to open up in 2026. Here's some other venues that might be able to accommodate your date. So one of the biggest issues that comes into the play is the wedding date. You picked the date, whether it's sentimental or not, but that was now going to be your wedding date for the rest of your life. You now also you fell in love with this venue, and now that venue is not going to be part of your future. So there's a little bit more of an emotional attachment that happens here than financial so far. The first thing you got to do is figure out what we're going to do about X and what we're going to do about X instead of, So first thing I said was take a deep breath. Yes, you're getting your money back. Okay, good. At least you have that deposit to go forward and put a deposit on something else. This is why the importance of going to your contracts for each one of your vendors is crucial and critical. So with all of my contracts, it is very clear. It is very, very clear in my contract what you're getting. You're getting X photographer for X amount of hours. You will get in return X, 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 X. There's no gray areas with, okay, what does that mean? Am I getting this? Am I getting that? It's very, very straightforward for there. There might be a little bit like, well, how many pictures am I going to get? That's always one of the biggest questions that I get. But needless to say, copyrights and everything else like that. So everything is very straightforward for me. As a venue, I don't know what's in their contracts because they have sometimes caterers inside of their contract that have to uphold their part of that. There might be a separate contract for caterer. There might be a separate contract for flowers and flowers, DJ, photographer, event planner if you have one. There's no contracts with dresses or anything else like that, but flowers and anything else that you're buying, paying for, and the reciprocation is going to be, we're going to deliver on this date and this place, this product, X. Go to your contracts. Look at the contracts and look to make sure that there's no gray area in there, meaning, hey, Ron, when you say you're bringing a second photographer, and this is what I tell people too, when I bring a second photographer, my second photographer is a shooter. He is not just a second photographer that occasionally takes pictures. He is a secondary shooter just like I am. So when I'm with the bride doing the getting ready pictures, my second shooter is with the groom over there getting ready. So there's no gray area. He is a second shooter, and he is not just an assistant that comes along. So that's very important to know in this. I said what the actual job description of a second shooter is. Some people will expect images from the second shooter's point of view, and I do include them. So some other people might not do that. They might just merge them into what they have and just give different perspectives and however they do it. But make sure in the contract you know what you're getting from that second shooter. That's very, very important with that. So the next thing, when it comes to your DJ, look at the contract of the DJ. And I'm not calling people out on this. I'm just saying, first and foremost, any vendor that you hire on your day should have insurance, business insurance. You should be registered as a business owner. Business insurance covers you and covers me. That way there, if anybody trips over one of my bags or my lights or my poles, my insurance covers me and covers that situation because I'm bringing third-party stuff into a venue. If I put a bag down and somebody trips over it, that is, you need insurance for that and stuff like that. So it's very important that you understand that your vendors should have business insurance, and it's your prerogative to ask for it. Can I see proof? What I do is I call up my insurance company, say, hey, I need an insurance binder for X date and X venue covering me on X date. And then what I do is I get it sent over to me. Piece of paper verifies all of my insurance, covered up to X, covers this, covers that. I send it to usually the vendors, usually the venue look for stuff like that because they want to make sure that I'm, insured. And you should be making sure that your vendors are insured when it comes to that. When it comes to a DJ's contract, make sure everything inside of there, you understand what you're getting. You're getting a professional DJ that's going to play all the music that you want and is not going to play the music that you don't want. That's in a contract. There's what's called a no play list. And if the chicken dance is not on your list, then he should not be playing that chicken dance. So make sure you understand that there's no gray area. And it's not like I said on my wedding tip, don't look at it as hypothetical situation. What if me and my fiance break up? Do we get our money back? Well, that's not the way you walk into a situation where you're trying to figure out, what your benefits are going to be for contracts and things like that. So don't go in it with a preconceived ideas like, what if this happens? What if that happens? But go in there with a mentality, clear understanding that you know what you're getting on your wedding day when it comes to who's showing up on your day, how many people are showing up on your day. I'm providing meals, you're providing meals for these said vendors. I've run into situations before where 2 photographers, 2 video people, and a DJ, so that's 5 people, and the venue only supported 3 meals. So this is where it is a privilege and an honor to be fed by the bride and groom and the wedding couple. So don't get me wrong, like where it's in my contract that you have to feed me. I am grateful for anything that you do give to us. But the venue doesn't look at it like that. And I'm not saying there are some venues that go out of their way to make sure their vendors get fed. Then there's some other venues that don't even let the vendors have an hors d'oeuvre. That's another video. When it comes to your contracts, go over your contracts, look at your photographer's contract, look over your DJ's contract, look over your flowers contract, look over all of these things and make sure there's no questions when it comes to that. Now, I want to go back to address this situation where this venue has now been canceled. They're not opening up the doors in 2026. This bride is now in a panic. She calls me up. Hey, Ron, oh my God, I don't know what to do. So I said, are you getting your money back? Yes. Okay, at least you have your deposit of X amount of dollars to go towards someplace else. Now, do we try and find something that was comparable to what you had? Because obviously in the beginning, you've already looked at all the other venues and the one that you picked was the one that made the cut, but now they're bankrupt and they're not coming back out. So now you got to readdress those venues again and say, first thing you do, call these venues up. Do you have this date available? No, you don't. Okay. What dates do you have available? So I'm going to address two sides of the coin on this. If hypothetically the new venue has your date available, there's going to be a couple of caveats to that. Awesome. You don't have to change the date with any of your vendors. Florist, DJ, photographer, all of us are just going to say, okay, we're not going there, we're going there. No problem. It's in the same town, next city over, no problem at all. Doesn't change anything. And I would not charge anybody extra because of a venue situation. I would not charge anybody extra for something like that. I feel like that's being petty. It wasn't the bride's fault that the venue got canceled. So, with that being said, the other side of that is, okay, you don't have that date available, but you do have the weekend after or the weekend before. Now, this is prime wedding season that this wedding happened. It's in September. It's prime wedding season. A lot of the other venues will already be booked up. Now, the other caveat to that is, no, they don't have your date available. So now you need to say, okay, if I pick another date, I now have to send all of my save the dates back out again with a correction saying it's now not September so-and-so, it's going to be October so-and-so or August so-and-so at such and such place. Now there's an expense to doing save the dates, printing up 125 of those save the dates to send them back out, not counting the postage to send all of that said stuff back out again. So there's a little bit of a domino effect happening here. So best case scenario is you keep the same date. You just got to change the venue to the next town over, and hopefully the price doesn't change. Because that could be like a whole nother animal if, hey, yes, we do have that date available. It is now going to be $85 per person instead of what you were paying at $55 per person. Okay? Hypothetical numbers. That now runs into a problem with, can we afford to go with this venue because we now have the new date or same venue. So now we have a different venue and the same date, but now we're running into a much bigger expense. You've got 9 months to your wedding. Is there any way you can come up with the extra money for the convenience of having the same date? Some people that have a date that is sentimental to them, it was 5 years from the day that we got engaged or the day that we, whatever significance of that. You don't want to change your date. So you're going to find a venue that can accommodate your date. So now let's flip the coin over, and now they don't have that date available, but the price is comparable. Now you have to figure out the other part of it with, are all of your vendors available? So now you got to go to your 7 vendors. Hey, who's doing my cake? Who's doing my flowers? Who's doing my DJ? Who's doing my photography? Who's doing my any other contracts that you have? We now have a new date. Are you available for it? If for some crazy stars line up, all of your vendors are now available for your new date, hallelujah, do a happy dance, do whatever you need to do, because now you just got to transfer and take care of the save the dates when it comes to that, because all of your vendors can just give you new contracts and the new information and get it all settled from there. Now, what if half of your vendors can't get to that new date? You now have to try and find somebody for, let's say it's a photographer. In September, a lot of them are booked already. DJs, a lot of them are booked already. Flowers, they might already have 13 weddings that month already, and they can't take on another wedding. Even though yours was in September, just because your date changed, everything comes forward. It's the availability of the florist to be able to have the hands to make your flowers. If the baker already has 25 weddings going on that month, and you came from September and you're trying to come back over into August, and now all of a sudden you have to figure out, he doesn't have enough hands to bake enough cakes to get everything ready. He can't take on another wedding in that situation. So now you got to find another florist, or you got to find another cake decorator or cake maker and stuff like that. So the stress level starts to go up when it comes to this. So you can't foresee the future when it comes to this. You know, DJs and photographers have a network of people that if something happens to me, my second shooter steps up, becomes the primary, and then we get another secondary shooter inside of that. That's in my contract. A DJ can send another DJ in his name and still do just of a job, because anybody we recommend, if I'm going to recommend somebody as a photographer, they're going to be just as good as I am. And if something happens with a death in my family, then somebody's going to step up and fill that spot for me and take over. My secondary shooter now becomes the primary shooter. So there's things in our contracts that kind of cover us when it comes to that. We have a network of people just like DJs. Florists might have other people they can accommodate for also, or bring another. There's ways around it. This video is all about just making sure that you have understood everything in your contract. If there's any part of gray area where you're not sure of or you want clarification of, you have every right to call that vendor and say, hey, Mr. DJ, can I have a little bit of clarification on this, meaning X, whatever that is, and that person should be a professional and just explain to you what that contract means. Now, backing up for just a second, if you find something in a contract that has already been signed and you found something that you did not like or didn't understand or did not read when you first signed it, you are legally bound to that contract. So I'm saying go back and read your contracts, because now you're in a situation. I'm saying before you even sign that contract, you should be reading every word of that contract. Now, I am guilty of not doing this. When I buy a new car, I do not read through the 75 pages of all of the information. I know what's going to be in there. If I default on the loan, they're going to come take the car. I get that. So read your contracts prior to you signing them. First of all, now you're in a situation, read them, understand them before your wedding comes up. Even if your wedding is coming up in 2026 or 2027, go to your contracts now. Whoever you have signed now, start looking up that now, saying, okay, if I turn blah, 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 okay. And for me, my deposits are non-refundable after 5 days of signing. So if you signed it on Monday, by Saturday, Sunday, you are no longer allowed to get your deposit back. And I say that in the most professional way, is we've already gone through all the hoops. You've already met me. You've already seen my work. We've already had conversations. We already had a meeting. You said, yes, here's my contract. You looked it over. You signed it. You gave me the deposit. Deposit comes to me 5 days after, a week, 2 weeks after. I'm going to throw a stupid scenario out here. 3 months later, you break up. Your deposit is foregone. I will hold it if you wanted to do like a family session, or I would put your deposit towards another session of some sort. It is not transferable to somebody else. It is not transferred to another, hey, can I get my deposit back and put it towards something else? Yes and no. Your contract is now void. Your wedding date has now been released. I actually send you an email saying Lemelin Photography relinquishes all responsibility of said date at said venue at said time with said person. Null and void. Now, I still have your deposit. This happened during COVID. So what I did was, because of COVID, obviously nobody was getting around anybody. COVID went by. A few months later, they had already got married in their backyard because they wanted to get married. They still had their tux. They still had their suit. And I reached back out to them, and they knew they weren't going to get the deposit back. They weren't even asking me for it back. So I said, hey, tell you what, why don't we go do this? Let's go do a small session based on getting formal pictures done for your wedding, and then at least you'll have them for you to look at in the future. So there's ways around getting a deposit back. There might be a way we can kind of finagle and give you a session for something else, but it's not transferable to anybody else. It's not transferable to anything else. I do not hold it for you. Hey, if I get married in 2 more years, can you hold it? Unfortunately, that's not how it works. Also, I want to address this also. When you call me up and you're looking at my website, I always ask, how did you hear about me? Oh, so-and-so told me about you, or you're a preferred vendor at this venue, so we got your name from that. That's awesome. I tell people, go to my website, look at my work. And I will verbally ask them, or in a text, everything that you see on my website is done by me. The creativity, the editing, everything else like that. Do you like what you see? Yes. Style-wise, that's what I do. Do you like what you see? Yes. When you see a person's website, you see their style. If your style aspect changes in the future and you want to get out of your contract, you're obligated to do that. You will lose your deposit. If your style changes, you don't like that style any longer. So before you sign a contract, make sure your style is right. Make sure you like the DJ's personality. Make sure you look the flower arrangements that people have, and you're looking at them and so, you don't get, oh, I wanted lilies and you got roses. Those are the things you want to make sure that you're getting, keep track of when it comes to that. Oh, I wanted 2 photographers, not just 1. Well, if it's in the contract with just 1 and you signed it, you're getting just 1 photographer. So be aware of your contracts let's start with this. Prior to you signing your contract for your venue, prior to signing your contract for your vendors, any one of them, read the contract. See what you're going to get, see what you have to put down, see how much payments are going to be. Can you make payments if you want to? And then as you're going through, if you've already signed them and everything's done, everything's booked for your day, I encourage you to go back to your contracts and just look them over to make sure that there's no gray areas, to make sure that there's nothing that could possibly come up saying, oh my God, I had no idea. So you don't want to be put into that situation. So this wedding tip that started 2.5 minutes long, I feel like needed to be addressed because life is full of uncertainties and you want to make sure that anything that you're legally contracted to, that you make sure you understand what you're getting, what you need to give, what you need to do, because with a contract, there's responsibilities on your side just as much as there's responsibility on my side. I need to show up on that day and produce X amount of images to take pictures of your day and deliver in X time. Deliver in X time. Whatever's in the contract, you are legally bound to uphold. On the consumer side, on the bride and groom side, on the wedding couple side, you have responsibilities of obligations also. You have a deposit that has to be made. You have a secondary payment that has to be made. And then you have a final payment that has to be made. And in my contract, it is 4 weeks before your wedding, I am paid in full. I do not get paid on the wedding day. I did that back when I first started, and I had a little bit of a situation that the father of the groom was responsible for passing out all of the envelopes at the end of the night. Not gratuity envelopes, which is another video I'll get into another time. No vendor should ever expect a tip at the end of the night. It is a blessing and an honor that if you even get one, instead of looking like with a handout like you're expecting one. I'm just going to leave that one there. So going back, moving forward from there, talking about, so this father-in-law everybody's having a great time. The DJ had a final payment coming. A photographer had a final payment coming, and there was another, maybe a bartender or something like that had another final payment coming. So he had all of these in his chest pocket, jacket pocket all night long. He's dancing and everything else like that. So the bride came up to me at the beginning of the night and said, hey, my father-in-law has your final payment. I'll make sure that he gets it to you. I said, don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. Last dance comes up. Actually, halfway through the night, through the reception, the bride comes up and says, hey, did my father-in-law talk to you yet? I said, no, not yet. She goes, oh, okay. I was like, don't worry about it right now. Go dance. Go have a good time. Don't worry about it. Last dance rolls around, and right after the last dance, she come up and said goodbye and stuff like that, and we're giving hugs and saying goodbye to everybody. And she said, did my father-in-law? And I said, no, not yet. She got a little bit mad, which I did not want to happen. Anytime you take your attention off of the day, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see you focusing on anything except for your fiance, your husband, and your wife, whatever it's going to be. I only want you focused on what is going on around you. She went over to the father-in-law, which had a very good night. Takes open the jacket, grabs all the envelopes, and she had to go around and pass out all of the final payment envelopes to all of the vendors that needed it. And I don't like doing that. Some vendors will get paid at the end of the night. I don't want to take my wedding couple's attention off of anything. So I try to just make sure, I'd say don't worry about it and stuff like that, but everything works out. You know, if for some stupid, bizarre reason I didn't get paid at the end of the night, obviously I'm holding all of your images until we get final payment. So I get paid 4 weeks before your wedding date. I'm paid in full. I show up on your day. You have a blast. I have a blast. I turn over the images in a couple of weeks after that. I deliver everything in the next couple of weeks. I do ask for a review. I have software. My 17 Hats sends out an email the next day after your wedding, 1 week after your wedding, 2 weeks after your wedding, and once it gets fulfilled, it gets shut off. But it asks for a review. And reviews for small businesses they're like gold. They're like gold, so they're very important when it comes to helping another wedding couple make a decision on hiring this DJ or photographer or florist, because when you get reviews, it lets other people know they had a good service from you, and then they're going to expect a good service from you. So another side note, but going back to that, sign all of your contracts, read all your contracts before you sign them. If you're in your contracts now, go back and look at them, make sure there's no gray areas. If there is, contact your vendors and venues right away so there's clarification and no gray areas. Other than that, this wedding tip turned into a full-blown video because it is something that is happening nowadays where people are not even having business insurance, and then they find out they tripped over something and they're like, I don't have any insurance. Be aware of that, wedding couples. So read your contracts before you sign, read your contracts after you sign. If there's any gray areas, address them, touch them, go back at them, go to your vendors. We're here to help you at all costs. So thank you guys for coming back to the channel. I appreciate your time. This was something that just needed to be addressed. When it comes to this, I haven't made a video in a while because it's been busy wedding season. So everyone, thank you for coming back to the channel. And remember to smile more because it sure does hurt less. Peace.